All right, let's quickly take you through the segment we have right now. I've got some perfect gentlemen that will be joining us to look at the 2023 elections, the impact of the insecurity, and of course the role media and of course social media will be playing in the forthcoming elections. I have from my immediate left is comrade Kelvin Aiboka Isesele. He's a successful businessman, chairman Bosu Holdings, and of course he is the president Elite Youth for Public Awareness. Welcome to the show. All right, and sitting very close to him is a perfect gentleman, a clergy, one of the senior pastors in Rock of Ages Christian Assembly. He's a multimedia and event consultant, Pastor Jairus Paul Osazwa.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and of course from my extreme left is a senior special assistant to Edo State Governor on religious matters. And of course, he's a perfect public affairs analyst and a political analyst as well, Honorable Gossens Osaige. Welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure again. Thank
All
you.
right, let's just kick start with you, Gossens Osaige.
Right.
The 2023 elections is just few days away. What impact will social media be playing in the forthcoming election? Let's start it from there.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Let me begin by saying that, you see, media generally has a single duty if we are to think towards the responsibility of journalism to inform the people, basically. Whether you talk about the social media or print media or electronic media, they are all galvanized towards providing informations, okay? But we're a little bit worried, and that is not just for me, but for majority of Nigerians because of the event in recent times. When you talk about the security permutations, the fears, the concern that have been raised, both locally and by international, well-known international nations. I mean, in terms of security alerts, security intelligence. And also, not so long, the INEC body also came up and expressed worry in this regard. You know, talked about, I think that should be in Katsina, over about, they were so sure of election being conducted in about 242 polling units and all of that. Now, putting all of this together calls for concern again. But like you have just asked, the media is a very powerful, influential tool. The media have a responsibility to, first of all, be able to curb the ugly menace of fake news. There is this, while we want to be informed, we need those informations to be well scrutinized. You know, over time there have been pockets of reports on how some stuff were blown out of proportions and how some information on the social media space were confirmed to be false information, things that never even happened anywhere. Okay, so part of the huge challenge on the part from the social media and the electronic media is to fact check some of these informations that goes out. Because there's this trend that I think is confusing the media space. The trend of trying to have like a hike in the various news sites. Everybody wants to have a busy site, sort of. You know, there's this trend of, oh, it's breaking news, you know. And sometimes in the name to attract the crowd, make our site becomes the popular discourse, we are not really able to check fact some of this information.
Okay, Honorable Osage. Okay.
Yeah. So I think over time, we've had these issues. So information seems to have gone out of control.
Okay.
And that is what I'm going to be saying, both to journalists and, of course, to the social media space and all of that. Okay. Who checks what is put there? How credible are these informations? Okay, because you are communicating to people, you are guiding people, you are helping people to form opinions, to form perspective, to form their own belief system by the information you put out there in the public space. Okay. Now, there's need for us to fact check this information. There's also need for us to go back to the basis of journalism, which is objectivity.
Okay, I'll get back to you. Let's quickly come to Pastor Jairus Paul Osazwa. Now, you are a consultant, you're a media consultant. Now, what areas do you think government should start putting checkmating or control on information that goes on social media and, of course, traditional medias?
Thank you so much. I'll first of all say compliment of the season to ITV for this opportunity to speak to the public. You know, this 2030 general election is a major one to us. It's not something we should just play about in every aspect of it. When it comes to the media, when it comes to government, when it comes to the electorate, when it comes to the aspirants, all hands must be on deck. Because I think if we miss it now, it's going to cost us a lot. It's going to cost us financial fortune, it's going to cost us economic fortune, it's going to cost us a lot in very aspects. And I will want to appeal to the government, to the electorate, to see this election as not election of favoritism, tribalism, religious or whatever, but is an election where we need to correct what we assume not to be working. So the government needs to create the enabling environment for the electorate to be bold, to be safe, so that they can come out and cast their vote. The government will also work closely with the security agencies, not just having cross-section with chief of staff, chief of army staff, naval staff, the IG or whatever. We want to see things working. We want to really hold the government accountable. We want a situation where the electorate, they are bold to come out without fear of insecurity. And also, like what my colleague said, the media is playing a key role. So the media should be able to educate the electorate on how to vote, why they should vote, where they should vote, and also why they are holding the electorate accountable. They should also hold the aspirants accountable. We want to know what they have. We want to know what they are bringing to the table. Like my spiritual father will always say, success is not a trial luck. It's a deliberate and a planned effort that must be sustained. So we want to appeal to government, we want to appeal to electorate, we want to appeal to everyone to play their game well.
Okay, now,
thank you.
Kelvin Isesele, as someone that has worked with the youth and still working with the youth, if you talk about social media, the first thing that comes to your mind is the NSAS protest that had a huge impact on Nigeria and the economy. Now, do you think we should expect same as we approach 2023 election?
First of all, good morning. I think, in my own opinion, insecurity, social media has actually not played the expected role we as citizens expect them to play. It's all go down to the failure of government at all levels. You know, let me say, government on its own have not been able to provide a very smooth public confidence on the electorate, which we are participants of. So you will always go to encounter insecurities, fake news, and all other social media irregularities that will tarnish the process of 2023 general elections. A lot of people don't want to accept, but this is the reality. First and foremost, in a civilized world, you don't just post something, even on your personal handle, and go scot-free. But here in Nigeria, someone can just post APC, 30 votes, PDP, 100 votes, AFPP, 120 votes. That does not even exist. And
on social media.
On social media. And some main media houses will even pick it and be announcing it. At the end of the day, you hear some other political party will be telling you, let's wait for INEC final results. This is where we are in Nigeria, where you cannot actually believe what has even been said on national television. Blackmailing. And nobody is held accountable for it. They go scot-free. In fact, even as we speak, some government officials have to even hire social media aides to actually spread out lies, false information.
Are you sure? Do you have facts about what you're saying?
Yes, it's everywhere. You will see somebody posted, government have done this, government have done this. Go to the site scene, you will find it. But they are being paid to do this.
So you're
job.
saying political office holders?
They are responsible. Government and political office holders are responsible for social media failure and false information and the insecurity we have. Insecurity is not just about going to burn INEC office. I was talking to a friend yesterday at the airport. Immediately I arrived in Nigeria. We were talking. Someone was asking me. I said, a lot of people are just saying physical insecurity, that people have to go and put fire on INEC office. Have you also talked about the cyber insecurity aspect of the election? You are just saying beaver, card reader. Have you take your time to know the companies that produces beaver? Have you take your time to understand how beavers works?
So you're saying we should not trust the
No, I'm
beavers?
giving the insecurity aspect of it. You can't just rely on insecurity that has to do with gunshots, stealing of ballot buses. Now, this same politician will migrate to cyber insecurity. From my own experience, it is the author of beaver that actually know the limit of which result can be transmitted. You can say 3 results should be transmitted under 5 minutes. Are Nigerians aware of that timely processes? So there is a lot of insecurities that are attached to 2023 general elections. So I think the government going forward, if we have a better president or national assembly, we should have a law to checkmate these excesses, especially the media and those kind of insecurity. You can't just go and burn an INEC office and nobody is held responsible. The CP of that area is still in office, coming to television to tell you we have arrested some suspect, we have done this, we have done this. In the next 48 hours, another INEC office is set on fire. That means the government have failed. Nobody is resigning, nobody is actually taking responsibility, either in the social media or in the main security. So 2023 election, to me, I still see it as normal election. Though my leader, my father, was trying to say it's a final decision that we have to make now. If we don't make it now, we may likely not have it. I still don't agree with a lot of people because there is no significant changes yet. We are in a country where people, some state governors have to ban oppositions want to hold rallies, better reason, bet no to them, and nobody is held accountable for it. So this is where the insecurity starts. Okay,
so I'll come back to you, Comrade Isesele. Now let's come to Honorable Gossens. Now, who should we hold accountable for false information? The government, the people? Who should be held accountable?
I think it would be totally unfair to put all the blame on the government. Okay, you see, when you talk about the media space, it's a collective participation of all. I want to begin from that. Responsibility must be shared by all the participants. Now, let me also bring this to your attention. I'm not a fan of what is happening on the national level in this country. We have had a series of public discussion on the menace we are facing security-wise, you know, and the fears we have when it comes to security. But going to the social media as directed by this discourse is a wide space that involves not only the government officials, but involve certified journalists, quack journalists, then the ordinary citizens of Nigeria, the religious bodies, sponsored and hired media agents, but of course some unscrupulous elements. Now, my point is that we all have a collective role to play. And let me begin with this. First of all, have you noticed that when there is an attempt to try to checkmate these excesses in our social media space, sometimes I know there are some policies and rules that may not go down well with us. But of course, it is a natural thing. There are no policies and rules in every nation that will always go down well with you. Because sometimes when you are not in governance, you see differently. Until you get in, that's the when sometimes you are able to see that things are not really the way it should. That is not to say that there are no gaps, there are no lapses in governance. But part of what I've seen in the social media space is when the government tries to put in some control, we are quick to get it across board and say, hey, they want to silence the voice of journalism. No, come on. I am a Nigerian, and you know me quite well. I don't give a damn. I say it as sticks. But that is what we have seen over time. We are quick to want to say, hey, they want to silence the voice, they want to silence the voice. But do you know, you are a journalist. We can go into past and recent happenings. At the time, I was reading a certain report online, that's some couple of months back. And when I discover the huge damage that mismanaged information, false information have caused, I was like, what? You know, let me just go away from something that is a little bit outside politics. There was a time that I think when we had heated sun issue or something, people were advocating, something suddenly spread sometimes that you have to put salt in water. And there was a time, that was when I had to start checking, where is this thing coming from? Until I discovered that somebody can just sit there in his bedroom because it belongs to different platform and just write up something that is scientific. Let's go away from politics. Because when you take it always to politics, there's a tendency to always want to quickly attack the government and some politicians.
So you are saying the government should not be held responsible.
I am saying that everybody share in a rule of curbing. No, you cannot be civilized and say it's government, it's government. Is it government that is responsible for social media posts?
Okay.
No, while I'm talking to my learner, you cannot just say the social media menace is government.
Comrade Kevin, he has the floor.
Yes, let me. I'm coming. I'm running the floor. It's not civilized to just say social. We are talking about social media. You need to know the point of discourse here. So you are telling me government is responsible.
We also on the flip side, we're also looking at traditional media too.
Government, yes, government have a role. I have pointed that out.
Right. Okay.
The ordinary Nigerians have a role. Now, let me talk to you about some of these different rules. Number one, where do we get our information from on social media? Is it the government that will tell you to check out on ITV or to go to one illegal site and check? It is your duty to be able to scrutinize. We have that duty. The government will not scrutinize for you. But again, let me drop this. The government have a role to provide regulatory and implementation. So that's why I said it's a collective responsibility. The traditional institution, the journalists, the certified journalists, let me drop this here, have a role to be unbiased, not to bring sentiment, religious sentiment, and what have you, personal interest into journalism. The goal of journalism is objectivity. That's why you cannot be right to say it's government. It's because this is the social media space we're talking about. Everybody is allowed to play. So everybody have a responsibility critically.
Let's come to Pastor Jairus Paul Osazwa. Now he has actually articulated some vital point. But do you think lack of employment is one of the reasons why people spend more time on social media? To an extent, an average Nigerian youth see social media space as a bailout for boredom. So do you think lack of employment is one of the reasons why people spend more time to digest misinformation on social media?
I would like to say first, there's nothing wrong with ideology, but in the aspects of the government, there have to be a way to see how they could manage the ideology of every citizen. First, when the access to a goods or a services is very easy to get, it becomes so popular. The social media is something that is even the uneducated, the educated, professors, doctors are online. Everyone wants to be the first to break the news, like my brother said. Everyone wants to break the news. Oh, this party is in Enugu. This aspirant slapped this person. He's online. And most times, I come to realize that part of this country, by the time the government go after this fake news, it is still the citizen that will come back to say the government is using the government power
to witch hunt
a particular citizen and all that. Like we have the NBC. There are some things ITV cannot broadcast. I've worked with 2 national television stations, radio in Nigeria, and I understand that there are regulatory bodies.
Sure.
If the social media is free to everyone, the government should As a matter of fact, it's an everyday thing to see how they could manage the social media. There's nothing wrong if there is a body that will help track or remove any news that is not certified by any blogger or by anyone. I'm saying it because this election is key to us. People are online. The people that are online, if I'm not mistaken, there are more than people watching the television right now. People now trust the social media bloggers more than the certified television stations, radio stations that should be paid attention to. So I think the role of the government, and you ask a question, unemployment, is it the basis for this new trend? If everyone in Nigeria is employed, definitely you will still have lapses. You can be in your office. As a matter of fact, there are people that are working in major organizations in this country. They are social media bloggers. So unemployment is not a basis for fake news. Okay. Yeah, it's just that it's easy once you have your Android phone or your tab or whatever, you open an account. As a matter of fact, like what he said, some government organizations, some aspirants are now beckoning on some bloggers to help project some particular stories. Okay. So I think the government should just sit up to see how they could manage the everyday news of the bloggers. And also message to the bloggers, don't just put out something there without verification, so that you don't destroy the democracy and the society we are trying to build. Okay. So, all right, our comrade Isesele, it seems you have a different view from what Honorable Osage actually submitted.
Yeah, I actually agree with
and disagree with.
I disagree with him. Yeah. My disagreement is narrowed because
I think we are now divided on different lines. So
I think he's speaking for government.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we are talking to Nigerians. What I would have loved to ask some questions, but let me digest. What happens to character, attitude, and human behavior by government policies? You can't, in Lisbon, for example, you don't just post something on your social media because it's wider.
I'm interested in those questions.
Then we take it off. We think before another person will view it, it's automatically disappeared on your page.
I mean, they have a strong regulatory
force. Is it the citizen that will go and do that? It's government responsibility to ensure and regulate everything that happens within the citizen. If a governor, let me narrow it down to, he's for state government. If a state government can make an order and call it executive order 2, that so billboard should not be posted in so place, why can't they say government use the same laws and energy to say, if no matter what be the reactions of citizens, you make the law.
Now, whatever he said is his opinion.
No, I'm just giving you example.
Okay.
We are on individual's opinion.
All right, okay.
He's not speaking for government. But I'm just trying to say he's trying to align to separate government from it. But some of us have traveled. We have seen life elsewhere. In Saudi Arabia, for example, if they have given this law, you can't go against it, even when the law doesn't favor you as a citizen. You have no choice than to obey the law.
So who should we hold responsible?
It's government responsibility to implement. These laws are there.
Okay.
There is social media law. When you go to the NBC law, when you go under, I think Article 12 or section, something like that. I can't really remember. There is still regulatory for social media, but the effect has not actually be put in force. So the government has failed in all ramifications. Okay. To ensure the citizens behave the way the government wants them to behave. This notion that we are saying the citizen will react, they will say we are wanting. It is because the government have already created that impression. When we do this, the citizens, when they sign the law that churches should go and do, what is it called? Through a CAC, you should pass through those processes. A lot of churches actually protested. They were not familiar with that law. But is it not in existence today? We will only shout for the first one with they are wanting this, they are wanting this. When the government is serious about it, we will walk into it.
Okay.
All right. Saying the citizen will be backlashing the government, me, I don't believe in those kind of stories.
All right, okay.
Make the law. ensure you enforce it, we will follow.
It's okay. Now let's just skip this segment and quickly look at insecurity that is bedeviling us. Recently, there has been a hike in attacks and kidnapping and abduction by bandits, insurgency, and of course the IPOB in eastern part of the country. Honorable Saige, do you think these 2023 elections will hold with the current increase in insecurity in the country?
Well, I think it's too early to have an emphatic words on that, but the date stands as of today, but as released by INEC. Whether there's going to be a reshift or not, I think it's too early to start to.
But looking at the current impact
like said,
of insecurity.
If you followed me when I started, it's worrisome. There is nobody that is not concerned about insecurity. Whether you call it social media, on social media, or you call it on ground. But you see, let's be careful. When you think that only one part of a whole institution can solve a problem. I don't know if you get that. Now, like I started by saying, if you look at the security permutations, it's not so good. It's quite alarming. Like I just told you, the INEC have come out to say, 242 polling units, they are not sure they can conduct an election in only one state. And that unit have over 142,000 eligible voters. Is that not
so if you now expatiate it to the national level?
That is, yes, that's just a state, Katsina, not to talk of other states. Now, look at the case incident of the burning down of different INEC offices. That is a concern. One of the things I always want us to know in this discourse, it's just that we diverted, that I wanted to bring my friend attention to. There is no way in the world where there are no, whether it's social menace, whether internet menace, or even security issues. But you now have to start to stray over the times, in history, what have the government at the national level done to curb this menace, to arrest this situation? Now, please, do you also notice what has happened in recent times? That just some few months ago, I was in Abuja, immediately that information came up from the US and the UK about the security alert in Abuja. And you needed to have been in Abuja that period. It was as if there was already a civil war. As in, everybody had to be meticulous, run away from public spaces, run to the houses. Before you know, everybody became a conscious.
Public schools.
In my own business apparatus in Abuja, I have to make sure they close earlier than usual because there is a security threat. Now,
and that will affect business.
What was the Minister of Information busy doing? Busy finding a way to find and to backlash the federal government. Few months or even weeks away from that, I saw Nigeria security alert traveling to UK. They are now stealing handbags. Be careful. I was laughing because while the government started finding a way to react, I have always said that the federal government must not be busy reacting. It is not the duty of credible governance to be reacting. See, with all due respect to our intelligence, you cannot compare the present level of our security intelligence to those advanced countries. So even Ghana also came up at the time. Later on, they now apologize for it. So when a country like UK or America tells you there is a security alert, like I had in this podium, you can't blame them for telling their people to be careful.
You have to evacuate their citizens at one point.
They are right. And security alert is not a secrecy. It's something that can bring up to the floor. And you should also be aware that recently, it has extended beyond just Abuja to up to 12 or more than a dozen states in Nigeria. Their citizens should not go here. That is something to be worried about. Now, what we are calling the government at the federal level to do is to arrest the situation. Enough of trying to fight back and find. I have seen the Minister of Education, Information, trying to find pocket of incidences. The last time was Canada. And saying they spoke about insights. Look at now the truck protest. Look at it. Those are not the issues. That's not how to govern a nation. We all know that security in this nation has been porous. Security in this nation has been a cause of worry. Now we now have to ask ourselves, what should the government do? And even the media. For the media, you have to begin to draw the attention of the government to porous areas, to areas that need to be arrested, like for example our borders. What is going on in our borders? Because when you talk about the election, you also have to relate it to our borders because of what we've had, the history over time on what happens, how it is alleged that, you know, people are imported from other countries
illegal
to
migrants.
vote, you know, illegal migrants. So what is happening about that?
Okay.
Why would INEC offices be raided down or bombed? Where are the security agents? What will it cost the government? Because currently the government controls the security apparatus. Now, what will it cost them to put a 24-hour security, heavy security on the various flashpoints?
Okay.
The INEC offices.
Okay.
See, we are gradually breeding the ground for electioneering apathy.
Okay.
If nothing is done to arrest the situation, this is the time for the federal government to engage all security apparatus, whether public or private, including health services.
Okay, I'll get back to you. So, Pastor Jared Paul, what areas do you think government is failing as far as insecurity of the nation is concerned?
To me, I just think the absence of effective dialogue is the presence of crisis. When things happen, it's becoming an everyday activity. It's left for the government or involved individuals to call major stakeholders to it. The kidnapping, the banditry, the whatever.
The unknown gunmen.
The unknown gunmen, you can name them. They are not spirits, they are human beings. They have locations. Sometimes at a point, they were asking us to do BVN, SIM registration.
NIM.
NIM.
Link it to your...
Link to your whatever, all your
phone
numbers and your contacts. Why? To enable them
to track these guys.
So if all these things are in place, why should not the government call or locate where this thing is happening?
We've not seen significant arrests.
That is what I'm saying. Is the absence of dialogue. Because like he said, the media has to play an effective role here. You can't tell me to go and vote in a place where in 1 month, the place has been raided down like 3 times. I won't come out. So educating people, go get your PVC, is not just enough. Can you travel from here to some parts of the region, let me not mention name, alone? As a matter of fact, if you are traveling and you've not seen any security agency on the road, you are not safe.
To call for concern.
So it's not about, like I said earlier, it's not about having meetings with security agencies. We, the citizens, we want to be free. We want to sleep with the consciousness that there is no cause for alarm. We want to see the 2023 election that it is free from crisis. We want the government to track these personnel. If they are not open for dialogue, then they should be open for arrest. So it's a matter of the government, because whether you like it or not, everything rises and falls on leadership.
Okay. All right, let's come to our comrade Isesele. Well, if you're just joining us, this is This Morning on ITV, Thursday morning special edition. And of course, I have Perfect Gentlemen, and together we've been looking at the impact of insecurity, the role social media and grassroots media will play, and of course, the 2023 general elections. Comrade Isesele, Nigerian police force, they are doing well. And of course, we must give it to other security agencies. But the Nigerian police alone, they've lost over 300 personnel to IPOB, to insurgency, to name it. Do you think they are well equipped to handle the elections?
My brother.
Do you think they are well equipped?
I always try to put it the way it is. I don't know why we try to separate a certain aspect of government. It's a general government failure. We have 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local government. You cannot tell me in my village that the village head doesn't know the bad guys operating in that village. But when you refuse to empower the local government authorities to do what they are supposed to do, you will have insecurity. These people have hideouts. Let me give you an example. I think I told you some time ago. One of my company in Ghana, I told you, something happened. In the next 18 hours, police caught the people Why? There was no police officer there. It's not because even an ordinary Ghana here, in every 24 posts, you have what they call digital CCTV camera. If you steal from here,
in every 24 posts,
in the main Accra, when you steal from Igobazua,
for instance,
before you get to Ring Road, they have caught you. You don't really need to put policemen on the checkpoints to arrest security situations. So, our state government failed, local government failed, federal government failed in giving them the necessary training and equipment. In quotes, the federal government takes the highest blame, following by the state government. Even some states cannot even conduct local government elections because they don't want to willingly give power to these people to operate freely. Now we go back to citizen vigilante, where security actually comes from. In a civilized world like, let me say, Denmark, for example, if I'm stealing in your house, the next door neighbor will record it and send to police. Where the citizen has not also been able to contribute to the security challenges we overlooked. You may go to Ringo, see someone taking someone's money in his pocket. You will just feel like it doesn't concern you. You will just be going. But if the government has been able to put the necessary things in place, the citizens will fall in line. I always say it. For example, they just came up a few months ago and said, redesign Naira note. Have we not accepted it? They also came up with one withdrawal limit, blah, blah, blah. They now have to amend it. Have we not accepted it? There is no way the rules might have favored us. But if the government are so serious, my dear brother, we will fall in line. You have no other choice. Because when you disobey, you have the consequences to face.
Okay.
Now, the police are not actually acted well because they take order. They are not answerable to the citizens. They are answerable to their employees, which is the president or the state governor or the local, wherever the positions are. For example, I'm from Edo Central. For the past 10 years of my life, I can't go to Edo Central without even having securities. An extra cost. Okay? Now, it would have been easy if the police in Edo Central is answerable to the local authority in that place. But when they arrest somebody from there, someone can call from State House and said, it's my boy, release him.
Okay, let's get to Honorable.
The problem is in Nigeria.
Let's get to Honorable Sage. Looking at the huge sum that has been invested in curbing insecurity. In fact, away from this government that has spent about 8 years in office, taking it back to the PDP government during President Goodluck Jonathan, we saw how the National Security Advisor was indicted in disbursing the monument for curbing insecurity. Now, do you think there should be a kind of reform in our security architecture?
Yes, I believe that beyond money, you know, it's good to equip our security agency. It's good to give them huge budgetary allocation, which we have done over the years, but we are still where we are. I don't know if you get that. So no aspect of government have enjoyed robust allocation, budgetary allocation in recent times than our security. Right from Goodluck Jonathan times, we are still where we are. So the question is, does money suddenly develop wings and fly away? You know, this is why I said, beyond just give them more budgetary, you know, allocation, give them more budgetary allocation. There are other factors you have to look at when you talk about nationhood security. You need to look at, for example, the morals of the personnel. You need to look at fairness. Okay? These things that you call little are very strong. Over time, we've seen on social media, whether true or false, how some military personnel try to do the rebel action, try to start castigating the army, even though on those occasions, the army have come up to say they don't know them. Whether it's true or not, that is left for another day. But my point is that beyond money, my heart goes for our security personnel. Sincerely speaking, DPO, of the Airway, these guys deserve our salute.
Okay.
I will tell you a couple of reasons why. Do you know that when you take the same policeman or army, an army or a soldier to other countries for peacekeeping, for reform,
they perform excellently well.
Our people will perform creditably, in fact, excellently. But when it comes to our own enclave, the performance is woeful, is amazing, as in to the negative now. Why? So you now need to start digging deep into the real issues. When a policeman, for a policeman or a soldier that can still carry a gun to defend this country, this kind of country, in fact, I have to give him praise. You know, especially considering the fact that many times there are different incidents that have happened over time that have made us start asking some questions. Number one, there was a time, I think you hinted a little bit on it, when there was an allege that the money that were meant for the ordinary fighters in the battlefront for welfare packages and whatever was not even getting to them. There was also a time, which is still a current news, that it is said that even the military, those that are confronting banditry and terrorists headlong, they have crude equipment, while the bandits and the Boko Haram have sophisticated weapons. Now, yet, this sector or this harm have enjoyed robust budgetary allocation over the years. Now you start asking, who is responsible for what? Who takes responsibility for what? How can the government give allocation budget to say we are supposed to acquire so number of fighting jets? At the end of the day, we are all waiting. Even when the jet, there was a time where one mysteriously lost. You know, just not too long ago, I heard that a trace of it was found around the Boko Haram territory. See, the problem we have in our security architecture is not just money or budgetary allocation. That's my point. There is a need for us to overhaul the system. Number one, we have to boost the morale of these security personnel, whether you call it the police, civil defense, and the army. We have to let them know that this is not a religious or ethnic fight. This is a fight to defend our motherland. And they also have to know that should their life go in the cause of defending our motherland, they will still be valued. Their families will not be neglected. It is painful
we'll get back to you,
for a serviceman to die in the cause of defending his motherland, and nobody talks about his wife or his kids. Then finally, it is also important for us to engage the traditional, the religious leaders, and of course, both Christian and Muslim, and of course, that is part of what my office is all about. I just came on board because you cannot really achieve grassroots security if you don't engage these leaders.
Honorable Sagi, I'll get back to you, Pastor Jaros Paulus as well. Now, should we now start looking at the welfare of our security agencies? To an extent, recently in Lagos, Nigeria, a police officer shot a legal practitioner. She's even pregnant. And of course, we've seen a crop of security agencies being fingered in some of the security breach, and yet some of these cases will just be swept under the carpet. Do you think the welfare of the security agencies is not taken well by the government?
This is very interesting because it's a two-way thing. Accountability and also responsibility. When you talk about accountability, it has to do with the authorities of the security agencies. When it comes to responsibility, it has to do with the personnel itself. Like the police officer that shot the legal practitioner that is pregnant, unfortunately, on Christmas Day. According to the news, he's 32 years in service. So when we hear train them, retrain them, and all that, first, before you became a military personnel, remember you are a human being. You hear, I was traveling one day and I saw a police officer. I was wondering, is this a police officer? I grew up in the barracks. My dad is a retired police officer. And I could still remember seen decency in him.
Back then.
Back then. You see a police officer with earrings. You see a police officer with dreadlocks. You see a police officer not properly dressed. You won't even see any identity of military training in him. The dressing, not dressing. You see him sagging with body hawk, with earring, with dreadlock, carrying AK-47 on the highway. So the accountability comes to the leadership of these security agencies. So welfare is not just the basics. It has to do with remolding the mindset of this personnel. How is the recruitment process carried out?
So if you compare the Nigerian police force back then and now, you're saying the crop of policemen we have in the past, they are perfect? They are better than the ones we have now?
You will agree with me that I'm not a politician.
Okay.
I'm not here to side party B or party. I'm a citizen that desire the good and the benefits of governance to every citizen. You can see a police officer with earring those days. You can see a police officer with dreadlocks. The same police officers going after these cyber crime or Yahoo boys that they call. When they just see you with dreadlock, they go after you. Who is going after this police officer with this outlook? So whether you give a police officer his salary is 100,000, 700,000,
it won't change anything.
It may not change because the mindset is still there. Like my brother said, you have the federal government, you have the state, you have the local government. I believe directly or indirectly, all the police officers or military personnel in Edo State, the Edo State governor is the chief commander-in-chief. Likewise, other states. And you have commissioner of police. So what are we doing to manage the characters of the personnel, of the individual we bring into the military body? So on the other hand, accountability, like my brother said, when someone is not well fed, expect any attitude or character from him. You can't expect someone serving his nation for 35 years. After retirement, he's struggling to get his gratuity, he's struggling to get his pension. These are signals to the serving police officers that before I retire, let me fight, whether legally or illegally, a miss or survivor, so that I don't join the queue
when you get to retirement age.
When you get to retirement age. So the government need to come on board in making sure that the citizens are safe in the hands of the police, the army, the navy.
Okay.
You can even hear some police officer, I will just shoot you and I will tell them it's accidental discharge. Only that statement alone should subject that person to criminal offense. So the government should come on board and see how we can make Nigeria a successful place. Because when you assume or think with the mindset that this person should protect me and the person is coming after your life, there is a cause for concern.
Okay, let's quickly come to you, Comrade Cecily. Now, as a grassroots politician and someone that has spent time in the grassroots, do you think there should be the call for reform and, of course, state policing? Do you agree with that thought?
First and foremost, you know I'm not a politician. So not a politician.
But you've been into grassroots mobilization.
Yes. It's not practically on politics.
Okay.
We just want a better society.
So you're not partisan. So let's get to the question.
That is it. Now, I think it still goes down to what my brother has said. You know, security in this nation has totally collapsed. You can't use it to compare those days. I practically know when I was growing up as a small boy, I used to have one uncle in Ibadan. So when one of my cousins wanted to enter I think DSS that time, I can't really remember. On the behalf of that applicant, some messages were sent down to our village to come and find information about the person who wanted to join DXS. And questions was asked about this individual. I think I remember those days, the elders in the community gathered in my village. They now say, so message come. They now say, is this person Pikino? When he was home, he was, they have to describe it. And I think he got the job as at that time. But these days, I don't think they do that any longer. When you just, if your senior brother is a commissioner and there is a slot, they share it. So someone who was not prepared.
So godfatherism is one of the reasons why we don't have.
In Nigeria is too deep. It's not what you just discuss on the pages of a newspaper. It's deep. So you cannot be a bad boy in a society because you work for a certain politician to achieve his aim, and there is police slots shared to that area. He is giving a slot. He pointed at you and sent you to train. Whether you pass or did not pass, they have given you uniform and you're gone. That is one aspect. Another aspect of it is the influence. Is the influence. We cannot shy away from it. We have a situation where someone is arrested for an offense he actually committed. Now, two things happened. The family of the person who committed the offense will cry out that their child is illegally detained.
Being victimized.
Then, another problem of the government failure, when that family have someone in government at any level, they involve the person. Then the person go to police station and bring the person out. You see the two areas who are failed in that aspect. Then, extrajudicial killings. I think we should allow justice to always take a due course. This is not for the citizens, we, the people. I've seen a situation where someone was killed, I think in Port Harcourt. Then the police who accidentally killed the person was facing trial. Then the family of the innocent man that was killed came out for family settlement, that they should compensate the family. And they gave them money. They forget their case.
Forget about the court proceedings.
Yes.
Okay.
The case died and they withdraw their cases.
Okay.
And the policeman, although he was sacked from the Nigeria police force, I think today he's one of the leaders in the state vigilante of that state. Now, let me narrow it down to my own state, for example. I can personally authoritatively tell you that a lot of people in there, they do vigilante something. I know their history, I know their background, and I know their activities in this. And you are giving such people gun.
So you are saying they don't have morals to be in the Edo State vigilante network.
I've launched a petition about some of them. I think it's still in process because these are people I know very well.
Okay, let's start wrapping up now.
How you now give such person a gun and call it Edo State vigilante something? They will just take Sienna and a low number, open their doors inside, driving around the whole street.
Okay, Comrade Cecily, let's start wrapping up now. Quickly, let's take a final note. Let's just wrap it up. A very brave, Honorable Saige. The 2023 elections, what shape do you think it will take? Let's just use 20 seconds to nip it.
First of all, I want to call on the federal government and state government at all levels to please take more proactive action in allaying the fear of the ordinary citizens.
Okay.
Before the closure of this election, I have always said that as the election get closer, we are going to be having issues with insecurity. Whether it's a calculated attempt to deliberately, encourage voters' empathy, one is yet to know, because it seems to be a recurring decimal. When it's closer to election, security issue is heightened. And when it gets to the main day, there is voter apathy.
Okay.
People tell their children, hey, go home. The federal government must now take decisive responsibility. Then beyond that, I quickly want to say that the security of the land is a collective responsibility.
Okay.
We must hold people accountable. People must take responsibility. Then again, every one of us at our individual locality must play our role.
All right, thank you very much. Pastor Jaros, call us as well. Thank you so much, Honorable Saige. What kind of president should Nigeria look out for in 2023? What kind of president should we look out for?
Yeah, you would have asked the politician.
It's unfortunate the note actually fell on you. So what kind of president should we look out for in 2023?
Oh, they did. According to you, are not taking me to where I don't know. But to my own, I'm looking out for a nation that it's able to provide basic amenities for its citizens.
Okay.
Poverty is not a respecter of age. Poverty is not a respecter of color, religion, or whatever. I'm looking out for 2023, a president that can help fight insecurity, that can help manage or eradicate poverty, that can help provide employment or create an enabling environment for employment or companies to rise. I'm looking out for an aspirant or a president that will be able to boost the agricultural performance. I'm looking out for a president that can create the economic standard that can match other countries. Okay. Like I said earlier, if we fail in this election, it's going to cost us fortune for us to gain back. Right. And on the aspect of the citizens, please come out and vote. Okay. Don't have the mindset that they already know the winner. In your own locality, carry out voter sensitization, which I did 2019, the general election. And by privilege, I was given an award by the European Union. Educate people on how to vote, why they should vote, where they should vote, how to get their PVC. Okay. And in the aspect of the security agency, they should please create a fair environment that is free for violence. Right. And in the aspect of the media as well, please help have the aspirant accountable and help create an environment for the electorate to vote.
I think the question actually took you to a zone where you actually where you're familiar with. Yeah. Let's quickly come to our comrade Isesele, quickly on a sharp note, 20 seconds. Should Nigerians trust this crop of politicians that we have next year?
I don't think the word trust should even come out. But I just believe whoever becomes the president of Nigeria, becomes Senate, whatever position it is, God should touch their hearts for them to leave the old ways and make Nigerians smile, so that we can have a better home to call our nation. We don't have any other country than Nigeria. So we pray that God should allow the best person to govern us.
All right.
But I don't trust.
You don't trust any of them?
And I don't even trust the process.
Okay, all right. I will leave it at that. We'll like to have another section with you guys probably next day, because this is going to be the last TMI for 2022. Thank you so much, Comrade Aiboka and Kevin Isesele, for taking time all the way from Ghana. You came in yesterday and you actually find time to be with us on the show. And of course, Pastor Jairus Paul.
Thank you so much.
Well, all the way from the seat of power, Abuja, the state capital. You actually came up to be with us. And thank you so much, Honorable Saige Gassent.
A pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
I'll be seeing more of you tonight. Well, we'll be taking a short break now. I will quickly go through the second segment. It's going to be very brief. We're going to look at 2023, and of course, people always talk about New Year's resolutions. We're going to be taking a few thoughts on it as we wrap up on TMI. It's Lovely Thursday morning. Don't go away.